No matter where you're at in your process or in your background, you need people to achieve your goals. So, no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much skill, no matter how much capital, you still need actual people to run your business. You need a leasing coordinator to physically show your properties. You need a property manager to actually collect rent and evict people. You need lenders. Well, of course, if you have unlimited money, you don't need lenders technically, but you like the smart way to go about it is to have lenders. So, regardless of what you know, who you know nearly always comes into play.
Hello
And
there. Welcome to another episode of the Julian Castle Show. Today I have Harry Gold. Harry, I'm sitting down with him today. He's someone who's bought 109 homes in 3 years and built a $7 million portfolio starting from zero. So if you ever thought like, I don't have the money, I don't have the connections, I don't live in the right market, this episode is going to kill all of those excuses. We're going to break down the step-by-step how he networked his way into deals, capital, and a completely different life. So Harry, for people that don't know you yet, who are you? What do you do? And what does your portfolio look like today?
yeah, my name is Harrison Goldblatt. I go by Harry Gold for short. I started doing I started just buying turnkeys, and I realized I was going to run out of money, and I was at a crossroads. I'm like, either I can raise money and have a bunch of partnerships, or I can do value add and fix and flip. And basically, that meant doing the BRRRR method. So I ran with the BRRRR method for as long as I could, and then I was like, well, you can't just endlessly scale a portfolio without also raising cash. So my solution to that has been doing flips. So I have acquired probably about 110 doors in the last 3 years. I've flipped about
Mhm.
25 of those. I still have 75 units that I have ownership in, whether it's 100% or 25% or 50%. Um, I own more than half of those 100%. And these days, I'm focused on scaling up my flip portfolio. Well, excuse me. I intend on scaling up my flip activity, and everything I do feeds into the long term goal of having 100% ownership of 100 units that's fully just managed and self contained by my own company.
That's amazing. Cool, cool, cool. So you have, you said 110 doors, and yet rough portfolio value 7 million,
Yes,
right?
the asset value. Yes.
That's
So if
about
you
it.
take every property that I have ownership in and look at what it's worth on the market or appraisal value, it's about 7 million. So the cool part about that is, I see the benefit of appreciation on $7 million worth of real estate.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, if it's 5% a year, that's plenty, right?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Awesome. So out of this $7 million portfolio, how much would you say you own in ownership at a percentage value?
Yeah. So I have 45 units that I own 100% of. So that could be
Nice.
a mix of duplexes, fourplexes, single family homes, and townhomes. I have 100% of 45 units. The remaining 30 is split between 15 units where I own 50% and 15 units where I own 25%. So I am more than halfway to my goal of 100% ownership in 100 units.
Nice. What would be your net worth right now in the 3 years you're doing this for?
Yeah, I'm just around a million. I've been stuck at a million for like the past year or so.
That's amazing though. 3 years to make 1 million. That's awesome. Okay. So so let's go. What was day zero like for you? Before the 109 homes what were you doing? How much were you making and what did it feel like?
Yeah, I actually made a video just the other day about the 6 year mistake, and the 6 year mistake was attempting to house hack, buying a house in Los Angeles. It was a townhome. It was a 3 bedroom townhome.
Yeah.
I rented out the 2 bedrooms, and I thought I was doing great because I was basically paying off my own investment and living in my own house, which was cool. I mean, it went up in value. My rent was it didn't the extra bedroom subsidized my rent. I wasn't quite living for free. It still was like $1,000 a month to live there. But
Mhm.
I call that recently the 6 year mistake because that was a $350,000 townhome when I bought it. And if I used the down payment on that to buy a bunch of homes in a place like Cleveland, Ohio, that would have been cash flowing $500 a piece. Whereas the place I lived in LA, I mean, I think that only cash flowed $500 a month ever. And then I repeated that same mistake two more times in
Mm.
yeah. And it wasn't a mistake in the way that I certainly wasn't going backwards, but
Yeah,
when you're accumulating primary residences that don't really cash flow or barely cash flow, or even in one case cash flow negative, you're not really taking any steps towards that freedom that we all aspire to have when you get into real estate.
for sure, for
Now,
sure. So you
yeah,
go ahead.
I was also going to say that there's a big shift during that time. I also had a full-time job in that time. So I was like, well, if I'm living in my own houses and at least paying myself instead of paying rent, then at least I'm getting ahead. But I didn't make the full-time transition to real estate until about 3 years ago.
Nice, nice. Okay, that makes sense. And so when you look at it, you're just looking at the opportunity cost. Like, let's say if I would have invested the money that I it did on my single family homes into rentals, right? You would have more overall now, which would be more or less passive income. So you'd get closer to your goal right now, instead of that you know what
Absolutely.
you did essentially, right?
Right. Right. So scrounging together every dollar to put a huge down payment on homes that will virtually never cash flow. I mean, whew, I could have gone 10 times further just going straight for the cash flow day one.
Of course. That's amazing. All right. So, look, the theme of this conversation is going to be like network your way to the top, right? So, by the
Yeah.
end of the episode, I want people to be able to say, like, I know exactly how to use relationships to find my first deal, then my next 10 without being rich, famous, or flashy. So, when you say like network your way to the top, what does it actually mean in your life? You know,
That's a great question. So that's when you go to my website, Network Your Way to the Top is the first headline that you see there. And people come from all walks of life when they get into real estate. Maybe they have nothing. Maybe they have $1 billion to start with. Maybe they're in a foreign country and just want to get their hands onto US real estate. No matter where you're at in your process or in your background, you need people to achieve your goals. So, no matter how much knowledge you have, no matter how much skill, no matter how much capital, you still need actual people to run your business. You need a leasing coordinator to physically show your properties. You need a property manager to actually collect rent and evict people. You need lenders. Well, of course, if you have unlimited money, you don't need lenders technically, but you like the smart way to go about it is to have lenders. So, regardless of what you know, who you know nearly always comes into play. And the reason why I like to talk about networking is because, yes, someone that has to allocate $1 billion and buy a bunch of real estate and get that managed, yes, for sure, it's useful for them to network. But it's also useful for someone with nothing to network. It's useful for someone with just drive and time and ambition to meet someone that might be a few steps ahead that just needs an assistant. So I see networking as something that can help people completely across the board, no matter where they're starting from.
gotcha, gotcha. So, if someone listens all the way through today, what do you think they'll be able to do differently next week in their real estate business?
Well, if they join my network, then they'll be able to have a direct line of communication with folks like yourself, and they'll be able to watch this video and see how we connect and see what your business model is. They can gain an understanding that they do need to build that connections. If you're randomly in my DMs, for example, sending me a deal, maybe there's a 2% chance I see it. But if you're showing up in my live streams and if you're showing up trying to figure out how to build a relationship with me, it's going to go much further. And that goes for everyone. A lot of people will see someone that might be a few steps ahead and they'll say, what can I take from this person? But if you look at them as a valuable connection where you can have a win-win relationship, then that takes you both further.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So let's talk about what are the three biggest things networking has done for you.
Well, some of the lenders I used today was from a former business partner that just sat next to someone on a plane, sparked up a conversation, said what we were getting into, and uh, their friend of a friend was starting a hard money fund. So getting in touch with hard money lenders has been enormous. Me posting online, uh, me posting online has led me to becoming friends with Richard Taylor, who's one of the largest wholesalers in the world. I would say going to in-person networking events. I've met Section 8 Cream maybe 4 or 5 times now at real estate events. So I was texting him today asking him about possibly we could do some sort of deal where I take my turnkey duplexes that I'm producing and he could share that with his audience. So all across the board, no matter how you look at it, me showing up to networking events and showing up online has allowed me to build a powerful network, and I can do nothing but recommend the same for a viewer.
Amazing, amazing. So that's wonderful. Uh, okay, so I'm actually going to a networking event today, so I do feel it is valuable as well.
Great.
I'm going to a sub two meetup here in Miami in Fort Lauderdale. It's about co living, but there's going to be other people, you know, obviously there. So I'm going for that. But
Yes.
anyway, so tell me, you know, obviously you have quite a few relationships, but like, what's one of the most ridiculous outcomes that you know came purely from a relationship that never would have happened, you know, if you would have just stayed home and maybe watched YouTube, for example?
Let's see the most ridiculous relationship, um, the most ridiculous relationship that came out of network. So like in a negative way or like a positive way?
In a positive way. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, of course, I value my relationship a lot with Richard Taylor, who's a big wholesaler and has a ton of presence online. I think we were first exchanging DMs when he had like 5,000 followers. We became friends when he had around 100,000. Now he has like 500,000 followers, which is pretty wild.
yeah.
Um, a couple months ago, that guy had a jacuzzi airlifted by helicopter onto his custom $50,000 deck that he just reinforced because it's his dream home. So that's definitely the most wild that comes to mind. But I'm trying to think if there's any other. I mean, on a consistent basis. I mean, just last week, I had a team retreat in Las Vegas,
Hmm.
and one of the guys I sat down with, he did the same exact business model I'm doing now. He ran up a fix and flip and long-term rental portfolio to 600 units in a span of 10 years, and he sold it to BlackRock, and he made millions of dollars, and now he's a lender. And so I got to sit at lunch with him. That was just through networking. Met some people in the Jewish community that knew him. There was another flipper that does 175 flips a year in Las Vegas, and I got to sit at his office and watch him work for a bit and kind of discuss the differences between Las Vegas and Cleveland. And then there's on the other side of that, one day I was this is a fun one.
Yeah.
There's a guy I met in Las Vegas, and I don't know if anyone knows this, but there's actually some ski lifts an hour outside of Las Vegas. And
Hmm.
one day I went skiing, and I was on the side of the road trying to figure out how to put chains on my tires. And it was snowing so much. All right, I needed to figure out how to put chains on my tires to get up the mountain. And on the side of the road, I just sparked up this conversation with someone else that was going up skiing, and I just started talking to him about the Section 8 game and rentals in Cleveland, Ohio. I th- he was primarily doing solar at the time, but he just got his license to broker DSCR loans, and he actually also acquired about 20 units over the following year. And now he's my go-to DSCR lender. So networking works in both ways. You can both meet people ahead of you that can help you with your business, but you can also meet people behind you that catch up and then end up providing tremendous value to your business anyway.
Nice. That's amazing. So yeah. So walk me through your first 12 months. You know, when you went from like zero to your first chunk of units, like how'd you find your
Yeah.
first deal? You know, who was involved? Like, did you have any mentors, you know, partners, agents, you know, etc.?
So I'm gonna summarize a 6 year time span where I was just living in primary residences and renting out the extra bedrooms. So
Mm.
not I was building equity and it was cool, but it was slow and it was boring.
Yeah.
I would say I had a decent job selling cybersecurity software, and I knew I needed to get out. I came across Tom Cruise's Section 8 Secrets course, and Cleveland was one of the target markets. Let me give you 1 second. So I came across Tom Cruise's Section 8 Secrets course, and Cleveland was one of the target markets. And I'm thinking, like, I have multiple primary residences that are worth about 300K on average. None of them really cash flow 500 a month, but I could buy homes for 60K and 70K in the Midwest that each cash flow 500 a month. That's just based on that metric alone. That's 5 times better than what I was doing. So I was like, okay, I have this good job. I have some cash on the side. I should buy a couple of turnkeys. So I bought 2 turnkeys in Cleveland, Ohio. And while I was under contract on the third, I lost my job.
Mm.
So I said, I want to go into real estate full time. I want to work for myself. I had 3 primary residences, 2 in Las Vegas, 1 in LA, and now 2 homes in Cleveland, Ohio. So it's like I have 5 properties. I'm under contract on the sixth. I think I just need to go all into real estate because stock trading didn't work as I had planned. The technology sales career was also kind of bumpy. But real estate, at least the assets I did have, were stable and going up in value. So I bought those. So while I was under contract on my third turnkey in Cleveland, Ohio, I came across this hard money lender, and he says, "Look, I've got 10 units for you in Toledo. It's um, 2 triplexes and a fourplex. I will finance the whole thing for you. You don't have to come out of pocket at all. You just have to sign these documents. They'll be yours." And at the time, I'm like, "Wow, so I'm going to go from 5 units to 15? That's crazy." And this guy that's never met me wants to finance all of it. I don't believe it. I'm flying to Ohio to meet this guy face to face because that just sounds so nuts. So I did. I went to Cleveland, Ohio, met with a couple property managers. Tried to build my network, tried to meet as many people in Cleveland, Ohio as I could while I was there.
Yeah.
And I met this lender. I checked out the properties. He explained to me through some sort of mumbo jumbo how it would make sense for him to finance these properties. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever, sure. Right? It sounds like a scam. Remember, I was under contract on my third property at this time. It was a $60,000 home. The lender that I was going to use, the DSCR lender, basically at the closing table said, "Yeah, we're not going to finance this deal for you. It's too small." And me having just lost my job, hungry to get the sixth property under my belt so I could keep the wheels moving forward on this business, said, like, "I don't want to lose the deal. It's a good deal. It's going to cash flow. What am I going to do?"
Yeah.
This same hard money lender, while I was in Cleveland, said, "Come to my office. I just got you approved for a $50,000 loan. Still make the down payment, but you can go ahead and close on that sixth purchase." So I was like, okay, well, as much as I think this guy is shady, he just gave me a $50,000 loan. I can close on my next property.
Right.
So then I was 3 doors into Cleveland. I think I bought another property with a partner and another property with a partner. And I was like, I'm just going to run out of cash. This same hard money lender uh, basically told me, like, look, just give me a call. You want more properties? I'll finance them as long as we get a good enough of a price. I'll lend 60 cents on the dollar so that, 60% of ARV so that you can refinance in a year. And so I ran with that. I had some cash in the bank from technology sales. Over the course of the following year, I ended up selling my 401k. I ended up selling my crypto. I even ended up selling my home in LA, and that helped fuel some of the growth. When I was 6 months into the doing this full time, so I got laid off in March 2023. So around September, I had a conversation, a frank conversation, even with my parents, right, and with myself. I need to see some serious progress. I can't just be buying houses that are fully leveraged that aren't going to cash flow. I was basically doing the same thing in Cleveland. I was buying these single family homes financed by a hard money lender, and there wasn't necessarily going to be any cash flow on the other side of it. I was just happy that I was building my equity and my net worth. So about 6 months into that, I accumulated about 20 units total in Cleveland through the method of this hard money lender just financing the full purchase prices and saying you'll figure out how to refinance it in a year. I was like, okay, well, this is my best shot.
Okay.
Yeah. So around, yeah, it was a few packages. I bought a few packages of 4 single family homes, a few packages of duplexes, and then in, but I still realized I wasn't moving fast enough. So I ended up taking down a 22 unit portfolio in October 23. And I basically, the way it was financed, all of the purchase price was financed. I got some renovation costs covered. I knew it was going to cost about 200K to renovate the whole thing. I only had about 100K. So I was like, I just need to take this swing. So at this period, by the end of 2023, I had about 45 units that were financed on hard money. And for those listening, what that means is like these were 15% 1 year loans. And if you screw up and these loans get called, I mean it's not like a 30-year mortgage where they don't even reach out to you for 90 days and then they negotiate with you and then a year later they take the home back. It's like if you're late on a hard money loan, they could just assign it back to yourself and you just lose. So all of 2024, I was just focused on refinancing out of all of this debt and running some of these renovations. In the portfolio that I picked up and the houses that I picked up, I focused on renovating the highest value properties first. I'd get cash out refinances, use the cash out to renovate the next properties, and then I would use that extra money to basically keep the wheel spinning, refinance, 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 and then some time by the end of 2024, I had everything refinanced on long term debt, and I had a pretty solid track record for buying, fixing up, and refinancing homes. There you go. That's the
Nice.
first year. That was the first year.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's amazing. Okay. So I love it. I love it. He basically told you to go like he threw you into the pool and said swim. And then
Yeah.
you like you kicked around a little bit and you found out how to swim. So that's great. Okay, but okay. It sounds great. I want to get into some of the mechanics. Tell
Yeah.
me a little bit
Yeah.
about how you find a deal. Like first, like not okay, backtrack. So first thing is like find a market. What if someone wants to get into a market right now? What are the top three markets, for real estate only for cash flow purposes? So you're not looking for any appreciation, only cash flow.
So I like Cleveland a lot because there's so much opportunity. There, like anytime you look, there's hundreds of listings for homes for sale for under 100K, and they'll
Mhm.
they'll cash flow. Similar markets are Akron and Toledo. I also think Jacksonville has a very compelling case because Florida in general is appreciating well. I also
Mhm.
hear a lot of talk about Memphis. I hear Little Rock, Arkansas is similar, and I hear I guess those would be the main ones that come to mind. Detroit, you can get cash flow. I'm skeptical. Because there's just been so much decrease in population in the past few decades.
Yeah.
So yeah, so those three cities in Cleveland are very similar. Cleveland, Akron, Toledo. You'll get your cash flow for sure. Detroit, you'll get it, but it comes with other risks. Jacksonville, you'll get it and you'll get some appreciation, and then some other like markets like I've also heard like Birmingham, Alabama, um, and then just other markets I haven't really done my research in.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so if someone's looking to buy their first Section 8 or rental property, how much do they need to have down for the down payment? And I'm assuming, like you did turnkey first. Let's say that was the case.
Mhm.
What are they looking for, in a property?
So I highly recommend doing a turnkey first. If you have the cash, great. If you don't have the cash, partner with someone. It gets your feet wet in a less risky way.
Mhm.
I mean, you could do a flip and pay someone $10,000 for a renovation and they just disappear. It happens more times than I'm willing to admit. um, so buy a turnkey. You can find a house for $70,000. Put a 20% down payment, so 14, and then maybe pay five to 10K in closing costs. So you're into your first deal for 25. The the closing costs on a cheap single family home are disproportionately high. What I turn out is duplexes. My typical thing that I sell is a duplex for 150K. That gives you way more lending options because the amount of lenders that will finance a $70,000 home versus anything over 100K is vastly different. You're basically, if you're if you're financing a purchase of a home for 70K or less, you're at the whim of just whoever you can find. Whereas if you are financing a 150K duplex, you can negotiate. You have a plethora of people that you can work with. So
Mm,
I recommend buy that 150K duplex. You get some sort of um, there's some sort of like, what's that concept? If you have 100 units and one goes vacant, you don't even feel it. But if you have one single
right.
family home and it's vacant, you're just stuck with the whole bill. Well, a
Hmm.
duplex is similar. Like, more than likely, if you just have one out of the two units filled at all times, you're basically covering your main obligation, which is that mortgage. So buy that 150K duplex, 30K down, maybe up to 10K in closing costs. I usually throw back some seller credits, but then, with about 40K, now you have two units, say, cash flowing 400 a month on average.
Okay, okay. Let me ask you this. So there's this tale on the internet that says you can
Yeah.
buy a property for $2,500 down or $5,000 down with seller finance, and there's a bunch of these deals. Like, how real is that? Like, can it actually happen? Is that possible?
It can happen. I've done it. You're giving up what there's pros and cons. So yes, it's real. Yes, you can do it. Yes, I've done it. I've taken over someone's land lease. I just had to fix the kitchen. I had to pay title costs and then like another few thousand to fix the kitchen, and it was mine. It was one house that they had in Cleveland. They were trying to move out of the market completely, and they just didn't want the obligation. I took over another deal. It was a nurse that was trying to move out of state. I did a mortgage takeover. It was turnkey when I bought it. I still had to end up redoing the floors and one of the pipes burst. So that ended up being like a 10K thing. But
Wow.
there's a world where, I mean, that's still super low down payments and it's possible, but you're you're spending time looking for those deals.
Hmm.
So if you're just trying to get your foot in the door, you're going to save a lot of time, a lot of headache, and a lot of risk by just going ahead and putting a down payment and going through what I would say is the kosher method. Just find a home, put a down payment, get DSCR financing, understand what you're getting yourself into, and then maybe look for those needle in the haystacks when um, you have some experience or you formed a track record. So here's where people really screw up or can potentially really screw up.
Yeah.
If you find a home and it's seller financing $2,500 down or something, I'm very curious why the seller wants to do that. Now, maybe the seller's agreeing to it because your purchase price is 30% over what the property's worth. I've heard people be very successful uh, grabbing a ton of these properties, low or no money down, but their purchase price is way above what it should be. So if they ever get stuck and need to raise cash, well, they have negative equity in the home. They can't sell it. They're stuck with both the negative equity and the obligation. Whereas I like to buy stuff at a discount, raise the value, and whether I refinance it or I sell it, at least I've built that equity. So you could do seller finance all day if you're overpaying for homes. I mean, I have plenty of homes I'd sell right now if you're willing to overpay and just I won't take a down payment, but you'll be stuck holding the bag if anything goes wrong and you'll owe me a bunch of money.
Right.
So it can be done. You just have to be careful and you just have to consider whether or not it's worth the time to look for the needle in the haystack.
Got it. Pretty good. Okay, awesome. So tell us about some of the things that are important to get, maybe an inspection, like, these things that we need when we're going to go buy a property, what are we looking
Yeah.
for?
So when someone buys a home through me, we deliver the property, we identify the tenant, we place the tenant, and we make sure it's ready to pass CMHA or Section 8 inspection. And with that obligation on my end, you're pretty much protected that this is going to be a habitable unit that's going to pass a pretty strict inspection. On top of that, you can order a general home inspection. These homes are 100 years old in many cases, and there's a million things that you could write up in an inspection report, but that doesn't necessarily affect the value or the health and safety of the home. So, if it's your first go around, yeah, sure, you can certainly get those inspections. I mean, it'll cost an extra $500, probably worth it, especially if you're buying a home from someone random that you might not trust. If someone ever like strongly discourages you from getting an inspection, then you should definitely get one. That's kind of how you should think about it,
For sure.
because maybe they're hiding something.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, because
okay.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
gotcha. So definitely. So tell us a little bit about more. You said if you get a home from me, you will guarantee that it'll pass the Section 8 inspection for a tenant. So do
Yes,
you place tenants, or
yes.
so you deliver
I
a
have
property Section 8 inspection pass with a tenant in place for someone who wants to buy?
That's exactly right. So, of course, I'm scaling up my flip volume, which means I have to scale up my turnkey buyers. So, the way that I incentivize my turnkey buyers is I have a full time leasing coordinator under my newly created licensed brokerage, and they will place Section 8 tenants for you, and we will pass the Section 8 move in inspection. So, that removes some of the biggest risks, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to be occupied, and are we going to pass inspection? I remove those risks, and then there's a property management company that I have a close relationship with that I hand off the management to.
Gotcha. Okay, so typically, how much is the markup on those flips? If someone were to do it themselves.
So, well, I'll typically buy a home for around 40K, 40 to 50K, and then I'll put maybe 40 to 50K in renovations, and then the ARV, what it's worth when I finish, is about 150K.
Hmm.
So, I'm selling the home for what it's worth. I'm selling the home for what uh, what it appraises for, what
Right.
it's likely to appraise for. That's how I underwrite it. The markup, I don't I don't charge for placing the tenants. I don't charge for passing the CMHA inspection. That's just all included in the purchase price.
That's pretty good. Okay, great. Okay, and so talk a little bit about the inspection. What are the things that they look for? Why is it so hard to pass an inspection? Why should some people be scared or should seek guidance or even seek someone to do it, for them?
Yeah. Well, they follow something called the Inspire checklist. That's NSPIRE. And why should someone be scared? Well, let's talk about some of the things that will fail. So, if you don't have the proper smoke alarms, if you have chipping paint, if your windows don't open and close smoothly, if there's cracks in the doors, um, if some of your outlets aren't working. So, there's a lot of little things that can cause an inspection to fail, but it's all stuff that you really want to have taken care of in a rental anyway.
Mm,
Maybe in Cleveland, they might care more about like downspouts and gutters being functional because it rains so much. I would say the reason why you should be scared, I've heard a lot of these inspectors, they don't get paid by the hour. They get paid based off of the amount of times they show up to do an inspection. So if you're just like a one off landlord that's trying to get this inspection done, the inspector might look for any excuse to fail because they want to come back and get paid again. Now, I don't quote me on this. Well, don't quote me on this. I don't, but it certainly, I've heard it and it certainly seems true. So
okay.
they'll look for an excuse to just, you know, they'll drive by the property, and if they don't see someone waiting outside, they'll say, "Oh, no one was there. You failed. We got to reschedule." And they get paid again because they come back a week later. So if you have a relationship with these inspectors, then they're more likely to treat you favorably. If they see the same face over and over sitting for these home inspections, they're like, "Okay, we know you're on top of it. We know you're going to bug the crap out of us if we don't pass you. Just send us pictures of whatever thing, like the new smoke alarms, the faucet, whatever, and we'll get that passed."
Mhm.
So having recurring people sit for the inspections goes a long way. When I just have someone random sitting for the inspections, or even not even someone random, if I have a direct employee, but they're just starting to sit for inspections, like it's their first couple, we're probably there's a much higher chance that we fail.
Mm, wow. Even this is relationship based then, huh?
This is networking. This is networking. I've seen it over and over in this exact thing, passing the move-in inspections.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and then great. Now let's talk about tenants. So obviously, it's important to vet out your tenants. What are some ways that you vet out tenants when you're placing them in a property that you're looking to sell?
Yeah, we don't want any. Well, we can't really do credit checks because they're on Section 8. So it wouldn't really do us any justice. But we look at their background check, make sure they haven't committed any felonies, definitely no violent crimes. And we also ask for two references. We ask for two personal references that would just vouch for them as a person. And then I think that's about it. So two personal
Okay,
references, background check, and then I think that's about. There might be a couple other things. You know, we're not going to accept like massive dogs. You know, we'll take small pets. Um, they got to make their security deposit. Uh, I mean, we've certainly let people in that were mistakes, but it's a relatively, depending on their program, we might look at their credit score. We might look at their paychecks if we think there's going to be a high tenant portion,
got it.
stuff like
Okay,
that.
I've heard that you should only rent to iPhone users and not Android
iPhone users,
users.
yeah, I've heard that. That's not
I've
something that I followed, but I certainly understand the appeal.
I also have heard that you should check out their current residence to see how they're treating it.
Well, that's tough because a lot of times they might just be like couch surfing with a relative. I mean, these people are in need of a home, or they might be living at a hotel. So it's kind of a catch 22.
Okay, okay, okay. Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, so all right. Well, tell us a little bit about some of the most brutal mistakes that you've done on your first deals, so a listener can just skip it, by copying, instead of learning it the hard way.
So I had this vision that I would just be able to cash out refinance all of these properties and be fine. Um, but if you just scale a real estate portfolio and you end up with a ton of real estate equity, you kind of run out of cash. And whenever there's a mistake or something going over budget or some some maintenance at a property, you kind of just get stuck. So I did scale to a lot of units owned very quickly, but I wish I brought flipping into my picture sooner.
Okay. So you're saying, yeah. So you're saying if you buy a lot of property, you're going to run out of money at some point. So you'd rather have an active income kind of a scenario
Yeah.
where you're also making money and then dumping it into the more passive, right?
Right. So I started with the 50-50 business partner and we just sprinted to 50 units. So within the first year, I had 50% ownership in 50 units, which was cool, but ran out of cash. And so we were kind of screwed. So we had a ton of real estate equity, but what do you do with that? We weren't buying these places with the intention of flipping them. We were buying them with the intention of just burring, refinancing them and keeping them, and eventually the
Mhm.
cash flow would add up. That's easier said than done. So I kind of I started flipping, but it got to a point where I had to flip instead of if I just went in with the mindset of like, hey, if I'm truly going to scale a large portfolio, I need to flip as I go. I need to build that as part of the picture. And I didn't start doing that until a year and a half later. So I would say if your plan is to build a large portfolio, you should keep flipping as part of your picture from day one. So
Okay.
as you're building your own portfolio, continue to build the back end buyers list, right? So maybe instead of just keeping everything, maybe you buy three and you sell one, and you buy three and you sell one, you buy three and you sell one. That way, you always have like a nice cushion of cash coming in, and also gets you in the habit of selling properties and finding your buyer base and your buyer list and figuring out what you can actually move.
Gotcha. Have you seen also it being recommended to wholesale and do turn, key rentals? as maybe
Yes,
as
yeah,
active?
yeah. I've heard that. I've heard that plenty. But the thing is, so for me, my flipping is so dialed in that I may as well just flip. You know,
Right,
because
right,
like
right, right.
if I try to squeeze out some 5K and 10K assignment fees, I may as well finish a renovation and look for a 40K lump sum from selling a flip. That's how I look at it.
Right,
I don't
right.
think that that's necessarily a standard case, though. I think wholesaling is a super valuable skill that anyone that wants to dive into this should should have and be aware of.
Cool. Okay, great. Um, so let's talk about something which you have a lot of experience in, but necessarily not a lot of people, and it's some of the stickier things in real estate to do, which is flipping. So, a big part of flipping is your contractors, right? So obviously it comes
Yes.
back again to the relationship. So tell us about your relationship with these contractors, how you keep them busy, and how you keep them good with you, to be able to accomplish these
Yeah.
these you know these flips.
Right. So I'm gonna go back and tell the whole story. And I just want to make sure that we're able to save time at the end and kind of discuss your business model as well, because I want to share with my audience, what you do and how you're able to succeed, so that they can learn, because they hear my story every day. So
Oh, okay, okay.
I want to, yeah. So that first year when I was sprinting to all those ownership and all those units, I had one property manager that basically said, I'll run the renovations for you at cost. Just let me manage your properties, because I see property management as passive income, right? I do the renovations, it's all good. I place the tenants and I don't have to worry about anything. Now, what actually ended up happening, he certainly succeeded at plenty of renovations for us, and the property's appraised and I refinanced and it was fine. But my rental income never seemed to show up. There was always an exorbitant amount of maintenance that needed to be done each month, and the guy wasn't willing to prove it. So I was sending this guy 50K a month to renovate the next property so I could do the next refinance, so I could pay off the hard money. Keep in mind, I borrowed I borrowed $2 million that first year. So I wasn't necessarily as stressed. I was worried about it, but I wasn't as stressed about the 10K a month that was missing versus the $2 million target over my head that I was trying to pay down. So I
Mhm.
built a track record very quickly through that one guy. Um, from there, I kind of stumbled through a handful of contractors. I would say what you want to do and the process that you want to follow is you never send more than 10K, even if you trust them. You never send more than 10K at a time. People will tell you that they need 50% down or 75% down or 25% down to start a project. They don't need that. They don't need that. They're trying to stack down payments on projects, and they're trying to run a Ponzi or something, or they're trying to just run off with your money.
Okay.
Um, so never send more than 10K at a time. If you could even get, like, the best case would be you get them to spend 10K out of their own pocket and then you reimburse them. A lot of fix and flip lenders will force you to do a draw program anyway because of this type of risk. So say you send someone 10K, they do repairs, they're able to give you photograph evidence of all the repairs, and then you send a third party inspector to approve the draw. Like, was this work actually done well? Was it actually done? And then once that draw gets approved, then you send the next round of 10K. So let's say it's a $50,000 rehab. Maybe you split it into electrical, then plumbing, then exterior work, and then interior finishes. So with each phase, you're not moving on to the next phase until you complete the first phase. And if you're doing it in 10K increments, you're logging everything with before and after photos, and you're sending a third party inspector, that will protect you 80% of the time.
Wow. That's a huge tip. That's a major tip. Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. All right, thank you. So yeah, let's get into it then. Whatever questions you want to ask, I'm free to go in.
Yeah. Any questions
Go
to
ahead.
ask you?
Yeah, to me, right? You want me to share
Great.
also?
Yes, absolutely. Please. So I do have a few people hanging out with us. Oh, they
Uh-huh.
can't hear. Oh. Um, okay. Well, I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. I'll just tell them to open Instagram. Open Instagram. and DM me here if you have questions. Open Instagram to listen. There we go. So my question is for you. You know, you're wholesaling quite a bit. So how many years have you been? So my first question is, when did it occur to you that you should get into real estate?
Okay. So I got so about it was about I think it was like 2023 or something. Yeah, 2020. It was 2023, yeah. So I've been looking around always, like what am I going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at this real estate guys, Grant Cardone, Manny Koshman. To me, I resonated a lot with Manny Koshman. I don't know if you know him, but he's based out of California. He has a huge major car collection. He has a beautiful wife, beautiful kids, and he has a huge real estate portfolio. And so I was like,
So
oh my
you were
god,
23 or the year was 2023?
2023, yeah.
Okay, got it.
So this was fairly recent. And so I decided, hey, I want to do what he's doing. So I got into his program. I paid $10,000 to be in it, and I was like, yeah, weekly calls with him and stuff, and it was great. I learned a ton. Now, the point at that point, I did not have like cash to do any major, commercial real estate deals, and so I was just kind of spinning my wheels for a few months, and then I was like, I need to get into real estate in another way that I can actually make money. And so that's where I got into wholesaling real estate. And so uh, I yeah, that's my first occurrence. I
Great.
just saw the lifestyle and I was like, I love it. I want to get into it.
Was there a special niche where you decided to start focusing your wholesaling? Because it could be overwhelming to say, "Hey, I'm just going to find any buyer and any seller and connect them."
Absolutely. So I started with one of the most hardest asset types you could possibly wholesale, and that is multifamily. So I started calling, owners of multifamily homes, with 5 units and up, and I was basically trying to get a wholesale deal, try to get them at a good price. And so it took me a few months. I think it was like 4 or 5 months to get my first deal, and it was supposed to
Mhm.
be a $40,000 deal. But the buyer dragged us out, and essentially we came out with like I think it was like an $8,000 assignment fee because like we just wanted to get it done, and so we just gave it at a very cheap price, and the guy walked away with a great deal, and we walked away with some money, but it wasn't ideal, as a
No,
yeah,
not if you're working on that for months.
yeah, yeah. So that's what I
Was
did. Mhm.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, was there a turning point for you where you were able to kind of increase your volume? Was there like a light bulb that went off where I was like, okay, what I'm doing isn't working, but if I just tweak this one thing, I can kind of start lining up more deals?
Absolutely. So as soon as I got paid out of that $8,000, I reinvested my profits, and basically I bought leads, paper leads, and it was kind of like I was rolling the dice, but I was rolling the dice on myself. And so I spent I think $1,000 on 10 leads. It was like maybe $100 a lead or something like that,
Whoa, that's expensive.
or a little less. Maybe it was 70. I think it was $70 a lead. With iSpeed to lead. Shout out to iSpeed to lead and Yuri and all that. Anyway, so I got these leads, and from those leads, I got a deal. Um,
Hmm.
so I then closed on that deal. I made another 10 grand or something. I was at this point, I was with a partner. I was like wholesaling with a partner. And so we were splitting profits. And so basically I think we finished off, we just did paper lead back to back. We did property leads. We did iSpeed to lead. And then we just kind of did, I think like 8 deals or so. In a few months. So like the more or less the same amount of time that it took me to get my first deal, we did like 8 or 10 deals, in the next few months once we had capital. And so so that's how I kind of scaled things. And then obviously I've scaled things even more, but go ahead.
So, but you bought valuable leads. I mean, it sounds like $70 per lead is pretty high, but these must have been like hot leads, ready to do a deal.
Yeah, yeah. I speak to lead. What I like about it is, I mean, obviously, I'm a student of the industry. I'm like a user. I The good thing about them is that you buy them, and then if there's any problems with the leads, like let's say that they're already under contract, they're listed, seller doesn't pick up the phone, um, any of these things, or they're unmotivated, like any of these things, you could just record your calls, send them the recording, and then they'll refund you the lead, and you can get another lead for free.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool. Oh, wow.
and
So you just proved that you actually called them. Oh, that's pretty sweet.
yeah,
That helps them clean up their leads too.
yeah.
So let's see here. So obviously you've done over 100 podcast episodes, which is very cool.
Hmm.
Um, was there a turning point where you decided that you needed to start doing this type of, I guess, interview or podcast, or like what led you down the podcasting route, and how has it impacted your business?
Yeah, so for me, podcasting has been a great way to network and meet like-minded people.
Mhm.
So I always wanted to get in touch with the big influencers, and I always felt somewhere inside of me that I was like going to be a big influencer someday, and I wanted to get around these people. And so, as soon as I became a partner in a Facebook group, I saw the opportunity, and I took it. And so, I've interviewed Pace Morby, Ryan Pineda, and all of these people. And so, there's a lot that comes with that, because I have a lot of network, like, right. And so
Right.
I think real estate is a relationship game. And so in the future, my goal is to use the networks that I have, the relationships, to basically catapult myself into success. And I've done that. I've asked people for help. I've got into rooms where essentially I maybe was not supposed to, or et cetera, because of it. And so I've gotten, so different things like come out of that. And since I am sticking to real estate, then I think it's going to be a very valuable thing, in the forefront of my career. you know
How did you land the Tom Cruise interview?
I just DM'd him
Really nice.
on Instagram. Yeah.
Cool. Same with Pace Morby and Ryan Pineda.
Yeah, so Pace Morby, I actually met him. He was doing a meetup in, I think it was like, I'm not sure where. It was here in Florida. It was a little bit north, maybe Fort Lauderdale or West Palm Beach. And I went there in person, and I was like, "Hey, Pace." I met him. As soon as he got in, there was a line, but I was like, "Screw the line." And I just
Yeah.
walked up in front and I just talked to him. And so
Nice.
I was like, "Hey, Pace." I was like, "My name's Julian. I've been doing this, this and that. I'm a partner in a Facebook group. With 170,000 members plus. I'd love to interview you on my podcast." And he's like, "Oh, really? That's great. Yeah, let's do it." And then he just told me, he gave me his email address, and then I just basically like followed up. I tried to get him into a podcast, and then he would pass me over to an assistant. The assistant didn't do it, but eventually I emailed him 2 or 3 times, and then we got it done. And so
Mhm. Great.
yeah.
So think about, for those listening, think about how interesting that is. Even the people with enormous networks and enormous net worth, they're still finding it valuable to continue networking. I mean, Pace Morby
Yeah.
puts all the effort into the world. Like he's going around the country doing meetups. Like obviously this guy finds it super valuable to just form more and more relationships. I mean, same thing with Tom Cruise, right? He talks about all of these houses he has and all this cash flow, but he's still going live every day and getting a bigger and bigger audience. Now, however they decide to use that audience is, it varies from person to person, but there's one thing in common, whether someone is just starting out like yourself 3 years ago, or these people that are already at least perceived to be at the top. Now we all know like true wealth, like, billionaires don't need to network or post online, but these people with like, they're still in the 0.1% of net worth, they're still worth millions and millions, and they find it absolutely necessary to do the networking. So, if you're just starting out, you kind of have to join the program and get the message there, especially in real estate. If you're stock trading, it's a little bit different. Or if you're doing like, there's certain industries where you don't really have to network as hard, but real estate, there's so many different ways to make things work, and there's so many different skill sets that are required, that networking is the key to success. I actually want to show you. I'm not sure if you had the chance to check out my website, but you certainly should. My goal is to have these conversations and then have the recording posted in this website, so that when people join the network, they can get to know who else is in there by watching the one-on-one videos that we share. So someone can get a free lifetime membership. So you'll get a free lifetime membership if you do an hour recorded with me. For anyone else, it's $20, but they could just decide to do the hour session later. And my goal is to basically, I don't know, think of like a cross between LinkedIn and Bigger Pockets, but for 2026 and beyond. I want people to actually get to know who's in the network, actually be collaborative, and be able to see who's doing the hour-long interviews, who's telling their story, who's trying to reach out, who's trying to be reachable.
Hmm.
So that's my pitch on my networking website.
No, that's awesome. I think networking is valuable, and especially how you're doing it, having a video about the person. It creates a lot of, like, it bridges the gap for a lot of people, because if you do a video on me, or like I'm doing a video on you, right? People learn
Yeah.
about you. They know so much more about you and about your story right away. And so when they're
Hmm.
reaching out, there's actually some connection that's already been, built. And
Absolutely.
so that's good.
So what?
Um,
Tell me what your deals look like in general currently. Like, what's a typical deal? Like, what's your bread and butter these days as far as wholesaling?
Right now, I mainly do novations, wholesales,
Hmm.
and sub twos, and I'm going to do wholesales. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, that's my major focus this year. So
Is there a
basically,
market where you're focusing, like a geographic
no,
area?
just I mean, yeah, the United States.
Okay, great.
Yes. So I do nationwide. So just like I put USA and that's it. And so I get leads
Got it.
everywhere. Um,
What about Florida? I mean, I imagine I always hear a lot of buzz about different cities that are booming or good for flipping or all the things.
Yeah, definitely. I have a deal in Florida right now. I have two. I have a sub two deal in Winter Haven, Florida. It has a 3.25 interest rate. Um and I already assigned that. We're waiting to close. And I have another deal in Chiefland, Florida. This deal is a mobile home. That's pretty big, 2,200 square feet, but it's built in 2000. And I think comps say it's like about 220. And then I have it, I think, for like 105. So I think that I could maybe sell it for 135, and it could be a $20,000 assignment fee.
That's,
So
that's great.
yeah, I get deals everywhere. Depends, what comes around.
Got it. And are you still doing the process of buying leads and just going after those?
I'm not doing paper lead anymore. I'm doing TikTok ads, so I'm actually running the ads myself, and that way I'm actually cutting costs like a huge amount. And
Sweet.
yeah.
Great. Anything I can help you with? Anything I can help you in your business?
So my goal is I do want to get into Section 8 in the
Hmm.
future. So I am going to my goal is to get my business to a certain point where I have 3 or 4 people working in it, maybe 5, and we're doing $100,000 months consistently. And
Great.
with that money, I want to funnel it into Section 8. I also want to remove myself from the business, so I want to have that making money and remove myself from the business. Still keep an eye out on it, but I want to do other things. So I want to build a Section 8 portfolio. And so, I mean, in the future, if you have any resources now you could share, I have some courses, but I haven't really gotten into too much. But
Hmm.
anything that would prepare me, I'm gonna start saving for my down payment on my first one. So 20%
Cool.
of profits on my wholesale deals, at least that's what I've set, are gonna go into a bank account just for Section 8. So so that's kind of what I
Nice.
got going on. So yeah.
So I do have a question from my audience. So who did you see that was wholesaling to basically inspire you to wholesale? Was there a particular wholesaler that you followed?
Um, I think that was there any particular well at that point in time, Pace Morby was very, vocal about wholesaling. There was Jamil Damji, you know, um, Shal Shakir, the All In Group, So I honestly, it was just kind of like because I before, like, I did a bunch of podcasts before, like, I got my first deal, I think,
Mhm.
and so I was
Got
actually
it.
meeting these people, and these people were kind of helping me out, and so like I had quite a bit of, like, you know, like, touch points with different people that are doing wholesaling, that basically said, like, yeah, here, like Sal Shakir, for example, shout out to him. he gave me his all in bundle for free. He was like, "Here, man, like have it, enjoy." And that helped me get my first deal, so I really appreciate him. There's other people that
Great.
helped me out, and so I think it was a combination of everyone that I interviewed at the beginning, and just all the people that were available there for me to
Amazing.
basically get on.
Sweet. Good for you. How often are you looking to do podcast episodes? And do you have
I
any
do
goals in that?
I do podcast episodes. My goal is to pump out a podcast a week, and so I've been doing that consistently for the last few weeks. But there was I think 2 months where I lagged a little bit. So I'm actually looking at more guests. I want to get more guests on, and I want to pump out more because yeah, I just building a brand is important, and I'm actually going to start
Really?
doing my. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, I'm on the same page.
Yeah. And so I'm actually going to do solo episodes now as well. Like I never really share about myself. But I'm going to start doing that. So in the future, you'll see maybe some podcasts just about myself or some YouTube videos with just myself going over some of the things that I'm doing in my business to get it to 100,000 and
Great. So, I mean, if someone wants to work with you as a buyer or a seller, I mean, for me, like if you just handed me every distressed duplex at a discount in Cleveland, Ohio, and then turned around and helped me sell it for top dollar, you'd be my hero. So,
right,
um,
right.
is there a way to? Of course, I usually make a couple posts online, and that helps me sell my turnkeys, and then I could find deals all over the place because I think that's just the type of market it is where there's a lot of opportunity. But is there like a particular way where someone just listening can work with you?
Yeah. So for you, I think your best way is to hire somebody out of, you know, uh, somewhere, in South America that speaks English,
Mm.
and that are salespeople as well. And so what I would do is for you, I would hire somebody like that. If you have a lot of projects coming up, I would just hire that person and have them be, fully, um, to be completely the only person that like does dispo on those deals, right? And so some resources I would give them is I think you can flat fee list on Bacom, for $99. You can flat fee your house. So I would flat fee your house. I'd have him, take all the inbound calls. I'll also have him pull all the buyers around with investor base, and then even prop streamer, patch leads or something. I'd also get a list of all the agents in the area from batch leads. Would pull a list of agents, and then I'll do a text blast, email blast, and ringless voicemail blast, and have them run all that stuff. And that way, you can get your deal in the marketplace. You can flood it in the marketplace, and basically, that's how you get top dollar. If you have the most exposure, you're going to get top dollar. That's how you get top dollar. So
So if someone is listening to this podcast or myself, what would be the best way for I or someone listening to work with you?
yeah. So for me, if you want to work with me, at the moment, just reach out via Instagram. I think if you have any questions, I'd give you my 2 cents for now. I'm not doing any coaching right now. I'm not actively hiring. If I do hire, I'm probably going to hire out of, Colombia or something. And, because it's just more, cheaper, and I get great
Sure.
people there.
Understandable. Yeah,
So, but yeah, just happy to talk. And if anybody is, for example, someone that wants to be on a podcast as well, let me know. You know, happy
great.
to.
Thank you so much. Any last questions for me before we wrap up?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Harry, for my audience, if someone was to get in touch with you, how did they do it? Where can they go?
Yeah, so I've got this Discord community and this network website. So there's burrsec8.com. I can send you the link after. And there's also harrygoldnetwork.com. Joining them, it's one and the same. If you join one, you joined both. And the best way to reach me is through my Discord. So I go live 4 days a week, an hour a day. I'm probably going to increase my live time soon, but if not, I mean, that's the best way to get deals in front of me. That's the best way to buy turnkeys. That's the best way to just network in general. Like if someone wants to pitch me on something, like even a contractor or a lender, like if if you join my community, that's kind of my hour per day where I just dedicate to talking to whoever wants to get in touch with me. Um,
Hmm.
if you get my personal number without me finding out how you got it. I probably won't be thrilled about that. I do have an office number for turnkey buyers, but generally speaking, if you seriously want to work with me, just pay the $20 and join the network and cancel it in a month. Like that's the true best way to get a hold of me.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Well, we'll definitely post those links on the show notes, and we appreciate you coming on, and thank you for also letting me share some of my journey, and yeah,
Of
look
course.
forward to having you
Yeah.
in the future.
Julian, thank you so much. I'll speak to you again soon.
All right.